Don't sit back and take back posse and wait for mistakes from them to happen. You start the game, nobody else. You run at the ball, you move the ball on, you back each other up, you talk, you work, you sweat your guts out, you tackle, you block, you smother the ball in the boot, you check marks, you don't give away 15-yard penalties inside the kicking area. Rucks! You've got to bust your guts out there tonight. Come on, Todd, come on, Todd. And Rovers have got to back them up. And every line has got to fit into the absolute maximum of what you can give. We're not ready for this last 39 years. Who the hell are you? Come on! Three of us can do it right now.
I used to go down to Glenelg. I can remember going down their early matches. If I didn't see the first, I would have gone there in 24, 25. But they were sort of hopeless when they first started, because they had a lot of imported play, but they weren't a team actually.
There was a time when we were playing South Adelaide, they were the easy beats, and I suppose Glenelg were too, in their early existence as a team.
When you go out and you play football, cricket or any sport at all, you play the game hard, you play it tough, and you want to win. But good heavens, surely you can shake hands with your opponent and say, "G'day, whatever this person's name is," and pat him on the back and wish him good luck, and that's what we do, have a bit of a chat beforehand, and we'd get stuck into each other through the course of the game, and then after the game we'd have the quickest shower you've ever seen in your life, because the pub shut at 6 o'clock, and we'd have the shower and run to the nearest pub where the bloke who stood playing football, and that was all part of the game. That's what you did. We'd go to an evening somewhere, perhaps you'd have a barbecue that night, and you'd be with the bloke you've been trying to knock over all day. Johnny Quinn, he was the prince of umpires when we played. I recall it on a couple of occasions. They all got in a heap and he said, come on boys, off the ball, get off, you know the game. He said, get away, only a couple of ruckmen, a couple of rovers. And they'd stand there. He said, well, he said, if you're going to stop there, he said, I've got all day, it doesn't worry me. He said, so I'll wait until you move. And he put the ball on the ground and he'd sit on it and wait until they moved away. He was the prince of umpires, was Johnny Quinn by far.
Yeah, we spoke at great length about, all the players of that era, particularly the Bay ones, because Dad played there in '33 and then went to South. But Len Salas he rated as an absolute champion. Bluey Johnson the same. Jack Owens, absolute marvellous, strong player and great kick.
Of course, he was the ultimate, really. He had the ability in every direction, you know, marking, running, tackling. He was the expert, you know, and of course this was recognised by the umpires when they gave him enough votes to win the Magarey medal in '34, and he was a fine person too.
He'd always find position for where the ball was. And that's when, and of course he was a brilliant mark.
He was a freak. He used to take marks anyhow. I mean, not just jump over the back of the packs. He jumped through them and landed awkwardly on his back, on his back, but he always marked the ball. Len Salas was one of the Glenelg's better players. In the 1933 state side, they hadn't, no Glenelg was picked in the state side. Well, I don't know how it came around, but the last resort, or at the last minute, they picked Len Salas. He played very well too.
I played with Jim for a couple of years before he retired, and he was a magnificent footballer. He was a typical centre half back. He would not give the half forward an inch, built to suit that style of play and that type of play. He was commonly known around Glenelg as Gentleman Jim Hanby. On and off the field, he was a lovely bloke.
Mel, from my memory, the only thing I can remember about him is the fact that he was rather strongly built lad, but not over tall, if I remember correctly, and that's going back a long time, I tell you.
I remember going to Mel Brock's house, and I was a young kid. Would have been 11 or 12, and he was a very strong man, you know. And I was pretty chuffed because there's me, an aspiring Glenelg player, standing next to a Magarey medalist. It was fantastic.
He was probably the most accurate kick of anyone. Screw punt, right from the boundary. I remember Unley Oval. Unley Oval was a true oval, you know, and back in those pockets, you couldn't see through the goals. And he'd get it on there and screw one through, kick it out and screw it through.
I stood on Jack Owen, and he was a very good player. You know, and a very good kick. He didn't miss him any. You know.
His big attribute was his straight kicking. Similar in some respects to Ken Farmer, because I can remember Ken Farmer, and I played with Ken, of course. I can remember Ken having, say, 12 kicks in a day and kicking 10 goals 2, 9 goals 3, 11 goals 4, and such like. But he, and I think Jack Owens was his equal in accuracy without necessarily having got the entire results.
Bruce was a magnificent fellow. He was a great footballer in his own right, a magnificent footballer. And as a coach, he didn't bully you or anything at all. He didn't shout like I believe they do today, and whatever they say. But not Bruce. He would patronise you. He would father you. He would look after you and do everything that he possibly could to make you comfortable and make you at home. And he was. I was delighted that he was the first coach that I had. He was a gentleman, a real gentleman, Bruce McGregor.
I was always a Glenelg barracker because my father and mother always barracked for Glenelg. Well, my first heroes was the Jack Owens, of course, from the leading goal kicker in the 1926s to about the 38s. He was one of my idols, and Len Salas was the captain. He was my other idol. At Black Forest Primary School, the sports master there, he taught me all the check sides himself. Because he said if you can kick a screw punt this way, there must be another way to keep the ball going the other way. So he was the first one, and then I developed it and practiced it. And I kicked a lot of goals from it in my time. Of course now everyone's doing it now. Straight after high school I went straight to West Glenelg. It was Ray Kerno then who coached the 43 West Glenelg side, yeah. I didn't play any other football. I went straight from school into league football. Well, it was pretty hard to get a game, although I was lucky enough to get one on a half-forward flank there for a while. And I played every game that year. But it was some good football. I played centre in 90, after coming out of the Navy in 46. For the last 7 or 8 games, I'd had a game with South Melbourne during the war in 1944 where I played centre. And the last 6 or 7 games, and then the first 4 games of 1947, got injured, and Norm Betson, then the captain, said, oh, go down to full forward, he said, and have a go there, and I happened to fluke 4 goals. And from then on I was posted at full forward. The biggest score I got was 13 against South Adelaide in 49. But that was the only score over 10 I got. Several 9s, but there was the only one over 10. And, everything just went right, and I even had Jimmy Dean come down to stand me in the last quarter, a great friend of mine at high school. He's, a small centre man, and he said, I've got to do something with you. So he came down and stood me for the last quarter. The fullbacks I had on those days were very good. John Abley, Ian McKay, Alf Roberts, and there was a lot of good from Tom Warhurst from Norwood. A lot of good fullbacks those days. They were specialists in those days. Of course, we had one of the best ever, Ray Hunt, who was a marvellous kick. They brought success to to the Bays, the three of them. They came down from mere pittance too, and were very personal friends of mine, so I was very happy to see them, and I played my heart out for Johnny, Johnny Taylor. Mateship, friendship, everyone. Everyone got on with everyone perfectly in those years, 3 years there. Alan was a very good ruckman, not so dominant at the centre bounces, but around the field he was an excellent player. He judged the ball very well around the field, a nice player. Ray Curnow, a lovely, smaller type of player when he played, and a very good coach. Ted Robgent, yes, he was a very gutsy centre half back or half backer, and lovely kick, and a great mark overhead for his size. He was only about 5'10". Stan Wickham was a nuggety back pocket player, a real character, and a teetotaler. Well, I reckon we had about close to 2,000 people down there watching us train, which is unheard of, and then the week before the grand final. So it was pretty buzz, the Glenelg district. I think that was one of our problems. I think we were too much of a social club. We had a very good core of players, and very unlucky to lose the grand final. We were probably a little bit nervous, I think. Yeah. It was Dowerwood to Olds and straight down to, I don't know whether it was Mayo or Way, and within 30 seconds they had a goal. And that went like that for the first quarter. They hit about 5 goals and we hardly scored. Well, we were odds on, really odds on to win it, and so much so that after the match, the Norwood, not anticipating a win, didn't have much celebrations on at Norwood Oval that night, because at about 9:30, about 9 or 10 or 11 players from Norwood were down at Glenelg club rooms, and we were beaten, you know. So that shows you just how much they thought of winning. That was my worst day in football. 1 goal. I was devastated after the match.
Whenever he was on the ground, he was still better than anyone that was standing him, in my opinion. So I went down in 1950 to watch Glenelg play in the grand final, which unfortunately they didn't win. The next year, in 1951, I went down there to live.
Neil Davies, I rated him as the best. He could run and jump like a gazelle, and a fantastic player.
can vividly remember playing against West Adelaide at Richmond. I saw him give Bertie Johnson, who was pretty quick in those days, I saw him give him 3 or 4 metres start and still beat him to the ball. So for a bloke who's 6'2", 6'3", it was, you know, he could have been anything.
We played Port Adelaide in our first game against a very good centre man in Davey Boyd, and the second game was against Bob Hank and his Torrens side at the Adelaide Oval. And I guess my youthful enthusiasm didn't think that these were any different players to anyone else. And so yes, after those two games they picked the squad and I was in it. Very pleased.
Well, Foss Williams was the nominal captain for that side. Unfortunately he got injured, so I was very, very lucky to be able to captain that side on the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Well, we got Foss Williams and Don Linder and John Halbert, all great players. Ken McGregor after his tennis days. Ian Hannaford, great ruckman. Neil Curley just coming into the prominence. Lindsay Head, nothing better than Lindsay, the way he played the game.
We thought we were pretty fit, training for an hour and a half perhaps on Tuesday and an hour and a half on Thursday, and then the game on Saturday, of course. And those that were keen did a little bit extra, but most of the time that was the way we just kicked the football around, did a bit of ring work, a bit of sprinting, and that was it. Despite that, the ball skills that these players displayed, plus those that I can remember from my early childhood, haven't changed a great deal to this era. The fun you have with the players that you're with day in and day out for about 8 months of the year. We didn't have too many career highlights as a team. We were always struggling. Again, because I don't think the club had the intensity of those that, well, like Port Adelaide.
He was a very dedicated footballer, and in his latter years, I don't know how he fronted from one Saturday to the other, because he had very bad knees and cartilage problems, and those days, if you had a cartilage out, you were out for the rest of the season and you suffered for seasons after. And he used to hobble from Sunday morning to Thursday night training, but he'd front up again, so he's that sort of bloke.
You're talking about a player that was completely balanced. Don was able to do everything at full pace, and whether he was playing centre or half forward, he just was a complete footballer.
Well, he just played so well in most matches. He was so consistent, and his ability to get the ball was tremendous.
Well, Rex was a team man with a prodigious kicking either foot, and was one of the players of that team in that era that was completely dedicated to doing as he was told, and being a team member, which made him a great asset to being in the side.
He was very elusive, very cunning, and good kick, good mark. He was one of the strong players of our time.
Hayden played centre half back for us. I think from memory was runner-up in the Magarey medal, and had a tremendous year. He had the ability to win the ball in the air or on the ground. Probably his biggest failing was his kicking, and that probably helped him get so far in the medal, because he wasted his kicks, unfortunately, and the ball would come back and he'd get it again, so he'd have twice as many touches as anyone else on the ground.
Well, I know that's a flippant sort of a comment, but they must think I'm pretty good if I can kick it to the opposition, and then when the opposition is kicking to their mates, that I can keep getting the ball. I think you'd be a pretty good player if you could do that.
Hayden, would you call Hayden the Rock or what? He was just so solid at centre half back. Just one of those players who saw the ball and went straight through no matter who was there.
Hayden was the type of player that everybody would like to have in their side. You had to be careful at times that you never got in his way, because you went as well as anybody else, because once Hayden saw the ball, that was it. It was his and his only.
Brian, who could have been a great state player, I was overlooked a bit, because his ball control, and especially when he's playing half-back, and his marking ability, it was second to none.
Probably one of the players I saw down the tier for his size and his light frame, but he takes some magnificent marks.
Brian was excellent, our centre-half forward, and he won a couple of news trophies, and he was a really good mark and a really good kick.
Colin had a complete football brain. Everything he did seemed to be automatic. He was about 5 seconds ahead of anyone else.
He was very clever at getting out of packs and throwing the dummy and pulling it back in. And
he was very, very tenacious, great ball getter. As a ruckman, I knew exactly where Colin was all the time through his voice and instructions of just letting you know where he was. He was a great little player.
Fred made a great impact when he came to us from Sydney, and his enthusiasm, even at what was then the ripe old age of 30, 32, rubbed off on everyone. And apart from being a great mark himself, he made the ball easier to get for everyone that was playing around him.
Since Colin Churchitt, we really didn't have a steady full forward, and Fred filled that bill quite well.
What have we got here? Oh, Graham Branson doing the right thing and making certain that no one gets to me. That's the type of thing we had done without any trouble in 1959. It was good fun.
We didn't have a lot of success in the era that I played. The one particular year that I remember was 59 under Neil Davies.
Neil had the ability to sort of get the players together as a team. So they've got his greatest ability, and they would miss him as a player because of the knee, but he sort of generated a lot of enthusiasm and fitness in the team, and they were a very close bunch of guys. Played West Adelaide in the final. Yeah, we got them in a close game. I remember both like Billy Harron played well at night. Colin Richards.
I can recall playing in the night finals, and it was one of our rare successes. So we celebrated till the early hours of the morning. I remember that.
All of a sudden, the members of the committee, the club, the supporters, seemed to get a little more enthusiastic. The players responded. We had a great team feeling in those days, in that year anyway, and it reflected on the field.
Well, in 59 against Sturt, it was very, very late in the game, and I can remember receiving the ball at the centre bounce from a tap. Whether it was Harry Kernahan or not, I can't remember. But I wheeled around on my left and I kicked a wobbly old left punt.
And with only seconds to go, Fred Pemminan took a mark.
And he was taking the shot, and I know I turned my back while he was taking the shot because he was sort of a tumble punter, but probably most of the other teammates did the same.
And kicked the winning goal for us to take us into the preliminary final against Port.
Sturt reckoned they were robbed, but it was just one of those things that was right on the siren that it happened.
Against Port, we led in the first half and should have been further ahead, but didn't make the most of our scoring opportunities, and they overran us in the second half.
Yeah, whether the occasion got to us, I'm not too sure, but of course those days Port's a very, very strong, hard side, and we probably we might have played our final game they won before that, but it was going to be hard to beat Port anyway.
Funny, we could have gone on with that. That's the team for 1959. We had a lot of fun. And while you're having fun, you have a lot of wins too, which was great.
And we're one kick away from getting into the major events, but it didn't eventuate. But yeah, we still had that enthusiasm, and when we finished that year, we were looking forward to next year. Unfortunately, it committee decided that I wasn't to be there, so that was it.
Unfortunately got the sack at the end of the season from San Rio. We never understood the players were right behind him, and we were very disappointed when he didn't coach again after that.
I'd played it from junior colts under Stan Wickham, and he was a very encouraging, very supportive guy. He was a real character. I can remember him riding his bike onto the oval to make a point. He had a good sense of humour, and he did coach the league team for a short time.
My first meeting with Ray Curnow was Faye, my wife, and I come home from playing a game of cards with Colin Rice and his wife, who eventually come here to Adelaide as well. This is when we were in Geelong, and there was a car parked out. This is 1 o'clock in the morning, the car parked out in front of our place in Geelong. And as we pulled in, these two people hopped out the car, and it turned out to be Ray Curnow and Jeff Ford, the past president of the club, making me an offer to come to Adelaide. And it's just the sort of thing at 1 o'clock in the morning that you'd be thinking about anyway.
Doug Long, the worst trainer I've ever known, but he'd perform on Saturdays, there's no doubt about that. But he was a very lazy trainer. But he came through on Saturdays and did all that was asked of him.
Well, Doug Long was a tall, fast, strong ruckman. He added a lot to the club. He was very strong, very good mark, very good kick, very mobile sort of ruckman. And he would have been one of the great players of our team.
Doug Long was the player when I played. You know, he rucked nearly the whole game. Didn't train much, got to tell you, but oh my God, he was a really fantastic player. He just covered so much ground. You know, he could read the play beautifully when the ball was coming into our back lines, and then he'd read it well going forward as well. And no, he was a very, very good player.
Larry Rosewarne was a very, very good ball handler. Around the centre of the ground was very tenacious player, very good foot pass. He could kick on both sides of his body, and once again a very good player.
Laurie, great bloke. Played centre, but he was one of those blokes who used to say, "Listen, horse, I'll be here and there when you go for the bounce down." I said, "No, you won't be here or there. I'll tell you where you'll be. What do you want me to be, a bloody contortionist? I'll tell you where to go, that's where I'm going to hit it."
That's right, he would say to me, no, you get over here. But he could backhand it, he could forward tap it, he could pull it back over the head. At boundary throws in particular, he was just brilliant at that. And you know, I'd just say, "Digger, Harry," and he was just fantastic, yeah.
I thought Harry Kernan was really fantastic. He was, you know, he surprised me that he wasn't that heavily built, but he was tall and gangly. But he was one of the most reliable players to do well under difficult circumstances, and he played, I think, quite a bit of state football as well. But he was a very classy player, very strong, very, very competent mark, kick, played in the forward line at times, and he, kicked goals, and he was magnificent in the ruck. He would have been one of the great players.
Brian came over with Colin Rice and they imported the two Rovers, and that's when I went to the back pocket for a couple of years. Very, very tenacious, aggressive player. Used his chest a lot in marking, like chesting his back pocket or his opposing rover out of the way. And
he probably played his best football, I would think, at South Melbourne, but was still a very, very good player for Glenelg when he came over. A left footer, a very good foot pass, and a very, very good shot for goal on the run.
I can remember Bill Heron. I thought his kicking as a centreman was just phenomenal. He'd come out of centre and, they'd end up in the goal square time and time again.
Ray, left footer on the half-forward flank, probably one of the best half-forward flankers that I've seen play. He was dynamic and a match winner.
Kicked a heap of goals against Woodville one day, took a mark on Bobby Elix's shoulder at Alberton. That was one of the greatest marks I think I've ever seen. He was a goal-kicking freak. He could kick the ball from anywhere and kick a goal. A bit like Jack Owens, apparently. He was a bit the same.
Huge kick and an absolutely brilliant high mark. So on his day, he really thumped in some magnificent goals. I think we were playing at Central Districts one day, and I reckon he must have had 15 to 18 goals on one day. I don't remember the exact figure, but it was a lot.
Jeff Payne, yeah, good ruckman. I got on well with Jeff. A good team man, and quite a capable ruckman.
I'll never forget Fitzy. He was a terrific teacher. He could really teach you how to play footy.
Len could see what needed to be done, and he knew he could do it himself, but the players he had weren't as capable as he was. He was frustrated, I think is the word. He was frustrated in that what he was trying to get them to do, most of the players weren't capable of doing.
I think we always give ourselves a chance of winning those games. We, in that particular year of Len Fitzgerald's, we had the start, I think, of the better sides at Glenelg, and we give ourselves a chance. Harry played particularly well that particular game. Colin Rice, Brian McGowan, Doc Sinclair played particularly well that day as well.
Yes, I was standing John Halbert, and I didn't have the best of days. I think I had 3 goals kicked on me in the first 3 quarters or half, and then I think I was on him for 3 quarters, and then Graham Sinclair went on him for the last quarter, and I think he kicked another 3 goals then.
The most vivid memory of that particular game was the Brian McGowan mark. And where he was penalised for running around his mark and running too far, and Ray Button had marked the ball in the goal square, which would have given Glenelg a win on that particular day. That is the main thing that stands out on that particular day.
He ran probably 30-35 yards, but 20-25 of that was behind the mark. So he claimed afterwards, and I agree, that he didn't really exceed the 15-yard rule, and he got pinged for it, and that was the end of it.
I think they won by a couple of goals. It wasn't, all that one-sided. It was fairly close, but we weren't, as a team, we weren't quite there. Although there was that decision about McGowan, I think that had that have been reversed, we may well have won that game. It was, it was a bit unfortunate, because had we won that, we could have as Len Fitzgerald said, we would have been playing in the grand final and may possibly have won it.
It was a very social club at the time, but it was a era where they were not very successful.
We had some really good players, you know, your Doug Longs and those sort of players, Colin Richards and that, but yeah, we're a bit of a social club in those days. You know, me being a kid, that you could just tell that, you know, the guys wanted a good time.
It was really a social club that accepted defeat, and I'm not built that way and didn't really believe in it, still don't. So yeah, he sort of took it on day one, and whatever scenario came up, whether it might be a trainer taking drinks to somewhere and he didn't get it right, he'd tell him straight away. So it actually didn't start only with the players, it started with the administration and everyone else as well. So when you just know the right way to go, that's what you need to do.
I think they wanted to win, but I don't think they really knew how, and the meaning of the difference between winning and losing. That's just how it seemed to me. Well, of course, I was a bit different to that. I wanted to win. Winning was very important. To their credit, the players quickly responded. We played Woodville in our first game, who had beaten the Bays the last game the year before, and we beat them by odd. Huge number of goals. And all of a sudden they got a taste for this, and it didn't leave them. They loved the feeling of winning, and so my job was just about already done.
I think probably down where the Buffalo is now, I'd say 150 men, boys, and possibles turned up, and they said, well, we better sort you out and work it out. So we did some work. I think the first thing we did was a run through the beach area.
Then Curl said, we'll go for a swim. We all walked in and went to get the keys to the car and that, and he said, no, we'll run down the beach. We ran to the Broadway. He said, you can have a swim now. And he said, no, hang on a minute, we'll go for a run. So we ran all the way down to Glenelg. You had to swim the Pat. If you couldn't swim the Pat, you had to run around the lock. We ran all the way down to the West Beach Sandhills.
And there were people, guys that were vomiting if they weren't fit enough to do it. So he sort of weeded those out, or they weeded themselves out. They just didn't come again.
I think there was about 140 to 150 people out at training, and the next night there was about 67. I remember Curl just spitting on his hands like he did, rubbed them, said, sorted some wheat from the chaff, now we can get on to some serious training. And that was Curl's. He was just so super fit. He was amazing.
It was really good to have him on your side. I was about the right height for a shepherd with the 5-inch thick wrists at face level sort of thing. But no, he was very tough, but he took it as well as gave it, so you can't ask for any more than that.
The first time I met him, he was such a powerful presence. I mean, you just had to be in awe of his physical presence. And he said things that made sense, and he made you feel important, and he really was awe-inspiring. A really inspirational character that you would have just followed anywhere.
And I can remember one day at Glenelg Oval, might have been on a Tuesday night, and we're just doing some certain drills, and Curls has lined me up, and he just shirt front of me, front on, and he just then taught me how to turn my shoulder and be evasive, and from that day onwards, I don't think I got hurt that much playing in that era, in that 70s, early 70s, late 70s, because I had that peripheral vision and that thought in the back of my mind, if I don't get out the way, I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered. And Curls taught me that. There's no doubt about that.
I found the game was relatively easier in the back line when Curly was coach, because he made people tackle and check closely right through the field, and he didn't like fancy play. Trying to mark a ball one hand, he'd want your whole body to be behind it and grab it with two hands.
I remember one day at training we were doing circle work, and Kills and Peter Anderson collided at training, and must have hurt Kills a bit because he turned around and actually picked Peter Anderson off the ground, you know, with two hands, and said, you know, make sure you talk better next time. So, and Peter Anderson wasn't the sort of guy that took a step backwards very often, but he did that particular training session.
I always had the opinion, and I always will maintain it, that a coach has every right in the world to do what he wants to do. And that's what Kells used to do. Walk into selection, I'd have to go and get dinner for us, put it on the table, he'd eat his dinner, have a glass of Coke, and say, there's a side, boys, see you later. No argument. And that's the way it should be. Great coach, Neil Kearley.
Poor old Harry, and Ed had forgotten to pack his shorts. And she was so meticulous, and Edward, and he got a pair off the property steward, and they were far too big. They looked like bloomers. And of course I'm up there, and we weren't going too well.
None of us had played well, but for some reason Kells turned on Harry and really abused him.
And he said, you're doing nothing. Harry just went berserk, you know.
And I said something like that. I said, you big useless turd. I said, have a look at you. You got bloody bloomers on you. No wonder you can't play, you big shealer. You're wearing shorts like a shealer. Well, Harry's erupted.
And Harry just had to be held back and restrained him. So.
And he's got up and he's coming across the tarpaulin. I thought, geez, he's going to have a crack at me.
It was the most incredible thing. You know, Ken Eustace and I, if it hadn't been for us, I reckon Harry would have donned curls.
So I grabbed the initiative and I said, yeah, you big lug. I said, instead of having a go at me, why don't you have a go at those other fellas out there, your opposition? Get into them. Well, Harry was like lighting a bloody fuse. He took off and he played a fantastic final quarter, and we won.
Harry was so furious.
And I'm walking up the race, and Kevin Parham, the team manager, said, he's waiting for you. Okay, so in I go, and there's Harry sitting down on the bench, and he's still smouldering. You can see the smoke coming out of him. So I've grabbed him. I said, well done, you. I said, I knew you were the one player I could rely on to get ignited. You didn't have to say that, he said. Did you? I said, no, I didn't mean it, Harry. And everything was fine. But oh, he was smouldering.
Glenelg gone to Adelaide Oval for South Australia's National Football League's Grand Final. It's 35 years since the Tigers won their first and only premiership, and only the third occasion they've contested the big one. Bob Shearman captains Glenelg's opponent, Sturt. They're aiming at their fourth successive pairs before the season began, finished second on the points table to Glenelg, whom they defeated by 38 points in the second semi-final.
We had a reasonably good year. I think we finished top that year, and but Sturt had a very good team as well. And over that area with Oti, they knitted together better on the day.
It's a good kick, and up they go. Greenslade snaps a clever goal as Sturt relentlessly pursue their fourth straight premiership. From in front, Fred Phillips easily beats short to mark. Should his kick be successful, Phillips will break a 33-year-old goal-kicking record for a season set by Ken Palmer of North Adelaide.
Records don't really mean a lot to me, but it's just a progression. We got in the grand final, and I think I kicked 4 or 5 goals that day and broke the record. And an honour to do it, but I think I played more games, so retrospectively he's probably the better player.
That goal gives the 21-year-older a total of 135 goals for the season, and he completes a unique double, as earlier he won the coveted '69 Margery Medal, the first full forward ever to receive the award. Produce a more constructive pattern to have any chance of checking the double.
Yeah, Royce Hart was amazing, really. He came over and under this army rule, and he was selected and played.
And he got knocked out in the first 5 minutes. I was right there alongside him. He got hit by Clark's knee in the jaw, and he was out cold and concussed. And yet he still played a marvellous game. He kicked 4 goals, I think. had 21 kicks, took about 10 marks. That was something, and I'd do the same again.
He's maintaining the brilliant form that made him such a valuable player for Richmond in the VFL Premiership.
But looking back, probably our team structure was probably affected by him playing. I knew where the full centre-half forward Darryl Moss, what he could do and his capabilities, so I'd anticipate that. But it's very hard to anticipate Royce Hart when you're not playing in front of him.
We got thrashed that day. We really got thrashed. I came on at 3/4 time and just ran around and tried to whack everybody, really.
I know we gave it all. You know, we gave it everything we had. It was Curl's last game for us, and you know, we all came off the ground absolutely devastated. But it's just one of those things, and it happened to us so many times over the years since. It's just you know, the memories of.
Captained by Bob Shearman, Sturt take the field at Adelaide Oval for South Australia's National Football League's Grand Final. The Double Blues have won the last 4 premierships, and this is their 6th successive Grand Final appearance. They defeated Port by 35 points in the second semi to enter the Grand Final against Glenelg, led by Ken Eustace. The Tigers are confident of avenging their 65 points defeat in last season's big one. Should they do so, they'll win their first premiership in 36 years. Winning the toss, Eustace elects to kick to the river end.
'70 was much closer, but '70 was just a quagmire. It had rained all day and all night, and the ground was in as poor a condition as you'd ever see.
Shearman, lifting his game, charges down the middle. His pass flies off the heel of his boot, and Glenelg tear in, but Endersby and Short combine to get the ball back to Shearman.
But again, they just had a lot more composure and kicked important goals at important times.
Boyd gathers off a pack to take play downfield. Glenelg get the ball under control, Button gathering close to the boundary line. His pass is knocked down by Fredericks, but regaining possession, Button beats Rigney to send Glenelg forward. Schoff takes a fine mark to stem the thrust and head a counter-attack. Having been closely checked and kept out of play by Colby thus far, Tilbrook is coming more into the game now. He's taking a long and perhaps ambitious shot at goal.
Tilbrook hurt us in that one the last quarter.
Sturt are equal to the challenge and are more direct in their play. Greenslade passes for Tilbrook. As Smith overruns the ball, Tilbrook boots through his 3rd goal.
He gave Prior Cobbs a bit of a run around that quarter and kicked a few goals.
Greenslade and Colby have a difference of opinion about the matter. Baldwell doesn't agree either. So, Greenslade explains the situation.
And they got away from us. And that was an one down the drain.
Had it been dry, I think we would have won. It brought Sturt to, or we came back to Sturt's standard, if you like to call it that. But again, they had a couple of performers in the last quarter. Tilbrook was one that kicked a couple of long goals. Noonan and Rick Davies did extremely well in the last quarter. Were we stiff? Yeah, but we should have been up there and been able to counteract them in what they were doing.
And we lost by, I don't know, 8-10 points, something like that. And it was the one that really got away, because that was the one that, I reckon if it had been dry, we'd have won it for sure.
towards the half-forward flank, looking across there. Marker couldn't take it, but well read off the pack there by Boyd. Boyd drives it down ground, and Carey takes the mark. Plays on quickly, on it goes towards Corns. Corns has a look at the goals, a long blazing kick, and it's a beautiful passage to play.
There are 7 players in South Australia who I call the Magnificent Seven that I was fortunate enough to be playing at the same time, and Graham Corns and Peter Marker are 2 of those Magnificent Seven.
3 at the finish. Richardson's kick slips off the side of the boot, and Marcus will take the mark. He plays on.
I don't think too many people realise how good Peter was. You know, he was a real class act. Courageous, fantastic balance. Every time we played Port, I put Peter Marker on Ebert, and he beat him every time. He was a class act. Peter, he's one of my favourites.
You know, a remarkable leader. I think he took over as captain when he was 21, so it shows, you know, the respect that Curls had in his ability to do the job, but just a fantastic player.
5 goals the difference. The Bay's in control.
12-minute marker. The third quarter as Buttons up there, tackled by Marker. Clever play there by Marker. Sidesteps brilliantly, lines up the goals, has a shot, and it post. 1 point. Bringing the ball back into play. It's a good 55. Look at that! Oh, that's incredible. That really is.
That's magnificent. There you saw it. Corns on the back of Bagshaw, and Bagshaw a bit ginger when he gets up. Gingerly gets up off that ground. That hurt a little bit.
I'll never forget the first night he came to training. Came down from Whaler, and this bloody little blonde-headed, skinny runt of a kid was just, you know, just this big smile. That's all he was, a big smile and blonde hair and skinny. And he's just jumping over everyone. We had some bit of end-to-end stuff, and just he was just so confident.
Gangly, like a scun rabbit, came down from Whaler. Very good footballer, very good mark. Probably held on to the ball too long when he took the mark, but always a very good contributor.
I remember when he first came down, and we played him in his first game at Unley, and he reared up in the first quarter and took this incredible mark, exactly the same position as the 73 final. And I said to Des State, I said, geez, did you see that? Hell, he said, it was a good mark, wasn't it? I said, yeah. And I thought to myself, this kid's going to be all right.
Out in the square bar corner.
Ricks came in to meet him. He's kicked at the full forward spot. Oh, Corns a great lead.
Graham Corns was an individual as a player, tremendous player. Couldn't tell him what to do as a player, and when he was a coach, you couldn't tell him what to do as a coach.
This is not a bad kick, I tell you what, that's Tregenza, straight through like a truck. Big kick towards the forward pocket. Sandland tapped over. Clever work there by Clawball.
And I'll say this so I'm blue in the face, I reckon I extended Rex Voigt's career. But the simple fact is that if I hadn't taken him out of roving and put him into the back pocket, he was one of the best back pocket players you could ever meet. He was really solid after that period where he went from a rover to a back pocket player, and I reckon he became a tremendous back pocket player. Rex, I helped you.
Down there for Freddie Phillips. He's very fast, Fred Phillips. He's too fast for Ryman. Here's a magnificent kick. Look at that. The best ball forward in Australia.
Fred's ability was his strength. You know, playing in front of him on a wing or centre, you know, you just knew that if he led and you just put the ball out in front of him, that he'd just catch it. You know, we always just say, you're going to bust that footy one day, Fred. You know, he was just so strong.
If a full-back started to nibble Fred, he'd just belt them. He would not tolerate any aggravation from a full-back, so he was never intimidated. In fact, the opposite, he would intimidate the full-back.
Certain full-backs were given jobs to do, and no matter how, and that included physically hitting you when the ball wasn't in the area. And I used to give them warning and say that if it happens, if that's a mistake, just beware. You know, the next time there's going to be retaliation, and you know that happened, and they didn't like it.
You know, he wasn't a natural, you know, certainly a natural kick, but worked very hard on his kicking, and you know, to set the records he did, he was you know, an amazing player, and also a strong leader within that group. You know, certainly for me in the early 70s, very strong man and strong leader, and him and you know, his brother Wayne certainly were a very strong combination.
Wayne was a big, strong, dangerous player. Not dangerous because he was nasty, but dangerous because he would just fall on people or run through them, or, you know, he wasn't a nasty footballer by any stretch, but he was dangerous because he was so big. And
Wayne's the real tough man. Yeah. He's a guy who stood up to Phil Carman and these sort of blokes. He was as hard as they get, really looked after his teammates. You know, if something happened to you, Wayne would be there right alongside you saying, you know, we'll fix it, we'll fix it.
If I had been a centre-half forward, the one player I would have hated to stand would have been Wayne Phillips. He was at them all the time. He just pushed them out of their game. He was a beauty. They were both fantastic players for the club.
He was just a genius with the footy. He could, you know, his skills, his evasive skills, his ability to find a player with the ball, whether by hand or by foot, was just incredible.
We'd all been invited to Rockers 21st, and we had to play North Adelaide at Prospect. I don't know what quarter. Rocker, he's gone down. He's broken his leg, or I had to take him off on the stretcher. He says, his big carrier said, "Don't worry, boys, I'll be there." And we've all gone to the 21st, but Rocker's not there. Like, he's in hospital. He's got a broken ankle. But about 10:30, in he came.
Discharged himself from hospital and came to the party. So that's the sort of guy Ron Redford is. He's just a great bloke.
Like Gallagher's kicked towards centre wing. Colby from behind. He's safe as a bank, this fellow. Lays it on. That's why he's an All-Australian. Gives it to Marker. Back to Colby. Look at him go. And a long one from him right down towards the goal square. Cole will shove down his opponent. And the free kick, I think, will go Norwood's way, although Robin Bennett says no.
Brian would be just about the best player I ever played with. He was Bruce Dool-like, and he could just about punch the ball to you when he was spoiling an opponent. But you always knew that if you ran back and Brian Cole was there, he'd either mark it or hit the ball forward. So great player to play with, and just totally fearless. And you know, all Australian. He's a great player.
In towards centre half forward. Tremendous mark, Brian Colby.
Start of the 1973 Grand Final, umpire Murray Ducker in charge.
It was very quick because there was only an attempt to score just a little bit late. It was knocked out.
Him back to Carey. Carey with a long one down to the half forward flank. Finds Wiggins. Wiggins snap. Kick in towards full forward. Fred Phillips. Quickly point. Lines it up.
Well done, Freddie. Miles in front of him and Barry to Rodney. One goal on the board. Right through the middle it goes.
They're taken by Cornwall. Back it goes to Phillips. Who's one of McGarry. Snaps it back over his shoulder. Right up towards the square. There's plenty of room to come there. And in goal. 25 minutes. They've got him. On the mark. It's the 1973 McGarry's medal. And that's Barry Robin. Howard goes through very nicely. Dishes out a shield. The front one. Out towards the back. In this first quarter. Marsh is across there. Here's Barry Robin coming into the game for the third time. He'll kick it right down towards the square. In fact, it's a free kick. And only McGarry left to do that.
Ones, no good hitting the big ones, and he cancels out. There's the thump from Tregenza. He won that tap.
I think Bob Tregenza probably played the best game of football in the ruck that I've seen for a while. He had to do it on his own because his partner was injured early, and so he was up against Spry and Spawn for just about the whole game, and he played a fantastic game. I think he had something like 21 hit-outs, which is not a bad day's work.
Single out anyone is probably not my role, but I will, because I cannot forget and never will forget the performance of Trigger Tregenza.
For the season for North Adelaide. Bounce at the centre. Gary Spawn hung there, but Tregenza did better. Knocked it out to the side. Finds Hamilton. Burns has been sticking very close to him. Retarded then by Von Berto. Kicks towards centre half forward. Spry. Gary, the dominant player on the ground at the moment, is...
The coach at that time, I believe, thought it was a good idea to play a loose player in defence, which was the role that I was meant to be playing, to try and nullify Peter Carey's influence on the game. Peter was and it certainly wasn't one of Neil's better games. I'm sure he would admit that, and Peter was really creating havoc for us, so the idea was almost to play two players on Peter Carey.
What saw that and indicated in the back. Barry Robin stands the mark. Barry Robin loose in defence all this quarter, yet to get a kick.
Carey's kick 3-2. This is a monstrous kick. You could give him the sake Marco right now if you had to make a decision after his call.
Well, it was about 31 degrees, which is pretty warm for footy, and you know, it was one of those days. The game was seesawing a lot, and so there was a lot of movement. And by the end of the game, I was tired, and I know a lot of the players were tired too. And the other factor was that for some reason there was a lot of time on, and actually 35 minutes I think it was, which meant the game really went for 5 quarters, which is you know, which is hard work.
You had a lot of young players in those days. You know, you talk about Peter Carey and little bandy-legged Rexy Voigt. I mean, those players were very significant. And if you look back at 73 and have a look at the age of those players, that's what Curls build up to. Had to have young people who were prepared to have a go.
So it's 8 points the difference. The Brays in front. Now tomorrow, who's won it as it goes down towards the right field. Oh, Hammond, he's got to be one of their best anyway. No doubt about that. Two players. That's all he's got left. If he angles it down, it's the back pocket to the centre of the ground. Wait till the second. Great catch. Again, long handball across. Barry Wongren over to Mustard. Wongren's left footed. Down towards centre half forward. Again, behind the great one kick. And there's Rebick. Steady. Colby's gone. The ball on towards centre half forward.
Yes, I can still see him doing it. He had a floral, pinky, purpley shirt on, and he did that when we hit the front. And I've got to be honest, I thought when we hit the front at about the 29-minute mark of the last quarter on that very hot day in October, that we were going to win.
And I thought, here we go again. After 69 and 70, here we go again.
And we have now 5 points minutes, 2.5 minutes play. Glenelg in trouble.
An incident happened in the last quarter which might have cost North a chance. They were on a bit of a roll, and the ball was kicked into the crowd at the northern end, and it took an age to come back. And I reckon it cost North Adelaide a bit of momentum.
It probably just allowed Glenelg maybe to settle a little bit, because we were certainly on a roll at that.
Got to get distance, they've got to get a goal. Comes across the ground, finds Peter Anderson, usually a very good kick. You can see the pace he's gone, but he's had it. He kicks a long one down to the full forward spot. Carey's there, can he mark it? He's marked them all day. Bob Hammond throws.
I remember trying to run the ball close to the boundary, and it didn't actually go over, and a Glenelg player got it and kicked it back to Graham.
Hooks it up in front of the goal. He's scored!
I don't know where he got the strength from, because it was right in the dying minutes of the game, and he flew and grabbed it, and it was a great mark under pressure. And I was glad he marked it too, because that held the game up for a while, and I could get into position.
Never forget it. All the strain on number 12. And every bit of strain. Hasn't kicked the goal all day, Wally. Hasn't kicked the goal all day. 29 for the season. Can he make it 30? It's a heart failure finish. He's back to the front. And the Brays go back to the front. We've had 5 minutes of time on. The Brays in front. What do you think now?
I was very close to him, and I stood right behind him as he was kicking the ball, trying my very best to upset him or put him off, but it didn't deviate, it just went straight through the middle. Very, very good kick in the circumstances.
Goes to Frederick Willis, sets himself right now towards the spur. It goes, it's only about 30, 60 seconds left. And you can't hear it, but Sandman's a tremendous mark. Coming out of the forward pocket. He's played it full forward. He's in the forward pocket now. Pulled down a mark. He's taken 6 good marks. He's had 8 kicks. But he's coming. There's the fire in the Brays, the first premiership win since 1934.
I remember what seemed an eternity, but probably was 30 seconds of an absolute vacuum of a feeling. I just felt nothing.
Brays winning by 7 points, and what a mighty grand final that was. Wally May, Ian Aiken, your comment. Oh, the best grand final I've ever had the privilege of calling. Well,
you cannot possibly imagine the feeling of the supporters on that particular evening after 29 years. of being in a drought. It was just one of the most sensational moments you'll ever have in your life.
He said that it's the best game I've umpired, and I umpired quite a number, as you said. But this game was just special because it was so free-flowing and so close, so tense, and played in such a good spirit.
They were a wonderful side. They deserved to win in the end. As I say, in hindsight, I have to admit that.
I mean, Curl's instilled into the players a need to be proud of yourself. I mean, Neil Curley's always been proud of himself, and so he should be. He was a dedicated man. I won't go through his lifestyle because it was one that should be put in a book, and it should be read about Neil Curley's upbringing and his attitude to football. So he just expected people to do the same, and that's what happened at 73.
It was the last occasion on which they beat Port Adelaide here at the Adelaide Oval, and it's perhaps fitting that this, perhaps the last grand final on the Adelaide Oval, should have been won by the Bucks.
Couldn't control it. Well played, Millard. Picked up now by Hamilton. Hamilton hand pass out to Millard. Well played the base. Over to Osborne. Osborne's kick in towards Corns. And Corns at centre half forward. A hand pass is over to Hodgman. He could have had a couple of bounces. Goes for the short one. Into Carey.
That's good football. Very good.
I remember Vince Lombardi, the very famous American gridiron coach, said, occasionally you get a player that plays with his head. He's a good player. And occasionally you get a player that plays with his heart. He's a good player too. But when you get a player that plays with his head and his heart, you've got your champion. And that's what Peter was. He had an incredible football brain. So quick. His reflexes were so unbelievably fast. He was a beauty.
Came past Weston, came to Hodgman. Oh, Davies tackled him, threw him down like a bag of spuds. Taken by Weston. Weston's playing well. Taken by Carey. Carey, 6 points.
Brilliant. Magnificent.
Perth player and Bennett over towards Carey. Carey having the fumbles on the outer side. Very clever work. Back it goes to Marker, who's having his 4th or 5th kick.
But some of his tapping and his reading, I didn't have to talk to Soup. We just looked at each other, and he'd either flick it over the top, or he'd drop it down short, or he'd say, get into that area there, and he would get it there because he knew he was getting beaten, but he'd tell me to go and get on the other ruckman's arm. So Peter Carey didn't care if he was getting beaten in the ruck, but we'd still get the ball.
Clever play there by Dare. Big arc onto that left foot. Down to Mulverhill. Carey in front. He played a good, solid game. Peter Carey, some 65 metres out. Very acute angle. Require one of his great kicks to make the distance. Well, look at the kick. It is a beauty too. Right towards the square. You couldn't have done any better than that. And it's right through.
The half-forward flank, bang. Straight into him. He'll have a lope in towards the goal. Bangs it up there for Glenelg. Weston it is. Oh, look at that mark. Little hot.
It's either a goal or the best mark you've ever seen.
Crikey, Moses.
Doing exactly as they like. Goodness me, Hodgman, straight through the middle.
I've never seen anyone with as much confidence as Hodgie. I still remember his first game. He was walking around, the change room, geeing up all the players, geeing up the Phyllises and the markers. And I remember my first game, I sat in the corner and didn't say a word. And that was Hodgie. Just a great player, and he actually commanded the ball with his enthusiasm and his voice.
Farland leading down ground. It would have been suicide if he had gone that way. Just as bad. Picked up nicely by Graham Corns. A long hand pass. Oh, this has set up his teammate Hodgman, but he's good enough to get out of it. Well played, Kim Hodgman. And that's better. They've gone into their forward line looking for their teammates.
I'll never forget it. Glenelg one day against Port. It was a bit greasy, and the ball was kicked over his head, and he turned around and ran the wrong way. One of these, which is a suicidal thing. And he leapt in against this group coming towards him, and he marked on his chest, and I turned around to Alan Crabb, I said, this kid's going to make it. And of course he more than made it. He was a little champion.
Back goes the ham pass. They keep that ball moving at all costs. Glenelg as Colby pushes it forward. Over the top, Anderson, Carey. Great play onto Hodgman. Hodgman has a shot at the goals, and this is a guard. Good kick. Good beauty. Quick through.
He was a great wingman. He's a long kick. But Twiggy was just a sensational team man. He like 6'3", in those days playing on the wing, he just wasn't heard of. But he was just so quick and had so much endurance. It was great.
Taken there by Nat now, lost by that player. McFarlane on, Twiggy Cornwall, balances himself, has a shot at the goals, and I'm afraid the Bays will win this. Let's see how they go today. Taken by Carey.
Big Inglis then, he hit Carey hard.
McFarlane down ground, looking for Corns, he shepherds, through for a goal.
Well, you know, John McFarlane's, you know, he's played 300 games, but he was so unobtrusive. He was such a great team man. He wasn't a huge talent, but he played 300 games. But when I say he wasn't a huge talent, I mean he had all the attributes. He was courageous. He went and got the ball first before he'd go and feed out someone else. He wasn't like one of those blokes that, you know, some wingmen, they just hang out and you just deliver the ball to them. He actually went and got the ball, and that's, you know, a credit to him, you know, from that perspective. And then having to play 300 games, it was a great effort.
The boot a bit quickly, I thought. Goes to the half-forward line. Anderson taps it down. Taken by McFarlane. He might kick this.
Oh, look at that!
With a long handball across the face of the goals. Ryman doing some good work for South Adelaide in defence, but this one's chance. Oh, will the mark be paid? Is that Western snapping it up now? It is. 6 points.
28. Oh, a lovely goal.
He's one of the best readers of the play I've ever seen. Paul would be at a particular position. He'd say, "What are you doing there?" And the ball would come out to him. He just read it so well. He could read the play from 2 or 3 kicks down and be in the right position. And some of his kicking, you know, I mean, he kicked the ball a mile.
Can man the ruck. Carey to centre half forward, and the Bays will do it well.
Lawsworthy and everything. He got tackled rather high. Taken there by Colin Anderson. Freddie Phillis. Over it goes to Rebick. Rebick's angle around the shoulder is a beautiful kick.
Great goal by Rebick.
We had to get percentage to get a good finals berth, and that was the main aim of the day. And so that's what happened, and it was a busy day at the office.
Comment in the middle of that slump, he said, "No worries, the Bays will come back."
Freddie Phillis on a long lead. He'll kick plenty this afternoon. Gary Ray is well and truly behind Phillis, who's near.
It was just like it just happened. Like it was just one of those things where games where everything went right for you.
From Marker, did they get into Corns' back? Yes, says umpire Schofield. To Corns. Corns, who looks sharp today, gives it to McFarlane from half forward right. A long driving kick at the goal. It looks like 6 points, and the Bay fans go wild.
I think I'd kicked 4 or 5 before half time, and I was having a ball. Like most of us were having a ball that day.
I would imagine this would be within his kicking distance. The breeze will help him. He's got it almost at his back, and he read it well. He read it beautifully. 6 points, and that one would be past him.
Bob Tardif absolutely dominated in the ruck, and I forget how many hit-outs he had, but it was around 50, I think.
Marker has a look, sees Phillis, bang, right under his chest, and could have hurt his ankle when he came down then, but he's okay. Landed a little bit awkwardly, but he's a fair way out, a good 45 metres. If he kicks this, it will be his 100th goal for the season, and will be in fact the 4th occasion on which he's kicked 100 goals or more. He's won the McGarry medal in full forward position. What more can you do? Make it work. And look at the kids come onto the ground.
And it was just incredible, because I don't think Centrals weren't that bad a side. It was just one of those days that everything went right for us on the day, and we just seemed to be able to get the ball out of the centre, get the ball in quickly to the forward line. Fred Phillis would mark it, kick a goal, and then we go back to the centre.
I got to the stage where I was handballing balls out, because I'd, you know, had kicked 18, and I didn't really even think about kicking 20. But looking back, it would have been a good number to get.
They desperately want that extra goal for the 50. I've never seen anything like this today. An incredible exhibition of football. Brady, quick as you like, onto the foot. McFarlane will mark. There he is. Winstead comes over the mark. Can only be seconds remaining as McFarlane gets the ball on the way. It's going to go right through for 1 point. Great kick. He play on. Stephen Copping's unattended on the centre wing, and that's where it's gone. Stephen Copping has got Marker going down ground, and that's exactly where the ball will go again. He'll be backed up again by Copping. Marker looking around the corner trying to find the little wingman. He can't, he's got a steady, goes for distance, slips off the side of the boot. It'll fall into the waiting arms of nobody. 2 Glenelg players crash down together. How do you like this? Casserly brings it away. It'll be taken by Colby. It'd be fitting if he could kick the 50th. Over it goes.
Poor old Johnny McFarlane had the I guess misfortune to hit the post late in the last quarter, and I don't think it really made a lot of difference whether it was 49 or 50 goals, but it was just an incredible day of footy where you just totally dominated the other side.
Look at that crowd as they stream out onto the ground. Final score, 49-23, 317, Central Districts 11-13, 79, a mammoth margin.
It's an amazing day.
But it's significant that we couldn't beat Centrals for about 3 or 4 years after that. They always played well against us after that.
You know, I think 74, I thought, you know, we had a bit of bad luck. We lost the toss that day, and Sturt kicked with a breeze, a very strong breeze at Footy Park in dry weather, and I think they got 6 goals in front of us at the end of the first quarter, and then the rain came, so you know, we had the wind died down and we had the rain as well, so we struggled to get back into the game.
A sight in this final term with the breeze that he's
75, I think, you know, we had a fantastic side. I think we probably had a better side than we did in 73, and I think we're a better side than Nord. They beat us on the day. We didn't play particularly well, you know. It's the one grand final. I think Curls blames himself a bit for making a move that, you know, may have cost us in the finish.
I reckon the one move I made at 3/4 time just about lost us the game. I just needed a spark. I felt we needed a spark in ruck against Norwood, and I took Wayne Phillips away from centre half back. It was on Ross Dillon, who was doing a good job, and I put him on the ball where he did a good job, but I moved Colin Anderson to centre half back, and Ross Dillon got away a bit and did some damage. The move should have been Peter Carey on the ball and Colin Anderson to centre half forward. So I pulled the wrong rein that day and paid the penalty.
That was a strange one, but I mean, we can all look back and, you know, say, well, we should have done this, we should have done that, but I kicked 6 points, but if I'd have kicked 6 goals, he wouldn't have had the made a move, so we're all right.
You know, so I certainly don't blame Curls for the loss. You know, I think we had a very talented side. I think we went into it probably very confident and not probably giving Nord the respect that they were due.
I really think we beat ourselves in 75 because there was too much confidence. You know, Neil Curley's speech before the 75 grand final was as motivating as you'd ever hear. It's the most impassioned, inspirational speech you'll ever heard a coach give. But then we lost. We went out and lost, and it took me a long time to analyse that. And I think there's no doubt that the loss in 75 contributed enormously to our successes in 85 and 86, because you learn most from your disappointments and your losses and your tragedies, and we had played that game and won it before we actually got into it.
They're all winnable games for us. We were good enough to do it. Had proved that through the year and didn't deliver on the day.
You know, the grand finals that I played in, you know, I was in 74, 75 and 77. I think it was 13 points was the biggest margin. So it's just on the day.
77 was a pretty good game and a pretty close game, but again, Port just got there in the finishing, and we sort of went backwards from 77, and under Nick, you know, a few problems internally when Nick was there, and we had John Halbert come.
Under pressure himself, gets it out wide, Marshall best on ground, slips it over Chigwin, back now to Murphy, Murphy sends it towards goal. Boys have got another one. Murphy boots his second. The Bays 9-9 to Porter.
It was really much an old boys club at that stage. We had Paul Weston, Graham Corns, Keith Coolman, Jim LaHoo, blokes who'd been around the footy club for a long, long time. But John Halbert was coach, and I guess you had the feeling that there was some metamorphosis of the footy club at that stage. He gave all the young blokes, myself and Kernahan, a look during pre-season.
He comes in for the crump. Traps it well, but runs into a dead heat. Kernahan, Pate, across the Western, half forward line. Peter Brown, 40 metres out, steady, shoots long, goal! Beautifully done, but if only the Bays could have done that earlier today.
Legs. Tony Simons, the will of the West from Glenelg. Kicking short to McGuinness. Eckerman can't get the ball to bounce. McGuinness going back to his left foot. He's got the pace. He's got the kick. Has he got the accuracy?
It was a wet day. It was a big crowd. Graham going to centre half back to play on David Granger was the real catalyst for the whole emotion of the day. Stephen Barrett having his leg broken. Peter Maynard was whacked as well.
The game went on and he just kept doing crazy things, and it was so frustrating because we were winning and we were going to win and we were going to play in a grand final, so you couldn't get reported, you couldn't actually do anything back. So in the end, Port Adelaide came home with a charge.
Port Adelaide player. High in the air towards Evans. It's a magnificent kick. Evans from behind. Off hands. Scouting on there. Belton for a goal. Port Adelaide 7-4.
Carey thumps it to the boundary line and it'll be a ball in. So the two sides that have already had the draw in the competition this year are a point the difference. It's 14-5 to 13-12. 29 and a half minutes gone. Is at the end of 3 premierships in a row for John Cahill and Port Adelaide. Phillips over the top. Cunningham. Weston. Still with it is Weston. And the siren is sounded. And the Bays are in the grand final. They've won by a point. 13-12-90. Port Adelaide 14-5-89. And Glenelg have beaten Port for the first time in a final series for 8 years at Football Park.
It was probably emotionally, apart from say the Crows' first game, was the best game I've ever played in. Yeah, it was, and I'd be surprised if a lot of other players from the day didn't agree.
And of course we played Norwood the next week, and we got beaten, but we'd played our grand final the week before.
I think we were emotionally spent, but nobody knew that at the time, but when you look back on it, we were probably shot, which was a shame because I think that was the strongest Glenelg team that I'd played in, certainly from talent point of view.
Kernahan, Sims, thumped on, ball to ground to McDermott. Peterby tackled high, allowed to go on to Kernahan. Opportunity for the Tigers, Stephen Kernahan.
I mean, he was probably 80 kilo, 85 at most, 6'4", so he wasn't a big fella, but again, had great courage, and I guess it's probably not a word that people use because he's such a great mark and he kicks the goals and takes the pack mark, and a lot of people don't see that as courageous, but he stood in front of the pack, took on the bigger bodies, and I guess the great thing with Stephen Kernahan is he helped our game plan so much. We get the ball in the middle of the ground, we just had to get it down into the forward line as quick as we could. Didn't have to be pretty, but as long as it got to him one-on-one, if he didn't win it, it came to ground and was very predictable.
Well, goes back towards centre half forward. Kernahan. Late tackle on that occasion. Kernahan gets up. Umpire Despot talking to the Sturt player. The mark or the free kick will be taken by Kernahan, and the Sturt player was still down. It's Graham Reid now slowly getting to his feet now.
He's no different today than he was in 1979 when I first met him playing high school football. So, you know, that's as big a rap for a person's character as you can get. No change whatsoever. Same person through and through.
You know, there's not many players that play the game that can actually change the course of the game. You know, I think there's been a few. There's, you know, like Wayne Carey, I've seen do it in the AFL, and Stephen Kernahan was doing it at Glenelg when he was 18 and 19 years old. You know, he'd be taking his 15 and 16 marks. You know, he'd kick 5 or 6 goals. If we're in trouble, he'd get thrown on the ball in the ruck, and he just had a magnificent pair of hands, a great work ethic, and was just an amazing player.
Nice looking drop, punt, going to struggle for distance. Right on the line, it could be touched, good in!
Bradley and also Painter. Painter did very well. Marshall tapped it on cleverly to McGuinness. McGuinness on his wrong side, but he's strong with the right foot. That's a long kick. The bounce might have beaten Hughes.
He was always destined for greatness, one of these blokes who had some natural talent but had a work ethic that was second to none. And again, he motivated a lot of players around him just by what he did on the track, how hard he trained, the way to go about being an elite player. We had a very successful season as a team, and he as a young fella was just unbeatable and just so electric. Great pace, great goal sense, and just great footy knowledge. Knew where to go to get the ball.
Now towards Simons, McDermott wants it out cleverly. McGuinness 30 metres out onto the left flank, shoots for goal, and the Bays are off to a tremendous start. McGuinness puts his 35-40 metres, he's still giving it away. Only gets it over as far as Butterick. Simons on the left leg, shoots for goal, puts it on its way. That's brilliantly done. Magnificent.
Maybe not the best looking of football, not built for football, but had an uncanny goal sense, incredibly athletic, had great endurance, would win all the runs that we would have pre-season.
Phillips dispatches it out to Arlen. Intercepting Simons. Simons boots to goal. Magnificent. 10th kick to Tony Simons. What a performance. Kick behind the play. Leslie does the ruck work. Did it well too to Geneva. A high one towards half-forward Gibbs.
He's just such a skillful bloke. He can put his hand to anything. He used, when we'd go away on those footy trips, he used to walk down the street bouncing a 20-cent piece on the ground and catching it. And I used to try it, and I'd lose about $4, you know, before I gave up.
Taken off him, they're appealing sarcastically that mark should be taken off Marshall. Oh, Gibbs. Superb in the air today, Ross Gibbs. Bounds through the centre, boots it out wide with his 18th kick to almost straight up in the air. Marshall against Spawn, and what a duel that'll be today. Marshall wins this encounter. He boots it to half-forward.
Oh, Marshall, the consummate professional, the consummate, I mean, he was so clean. I don't think he had an injury. He never got injured because he was just so clean. His foot passing, his ability to evade, his ability with his left foot and his right foot, he was a classic player.
Mops up as usual, must be about his 30th possession. Oh, David Marshall with the mark of the day so far. Kicks the ball deep into attack, looking for John Steve-Bickley, who marks.
Goes for the long torpedo off the side of the boot, from behind Seabohm. Set himself early for that ball. He's taken a very good mark. He pushes the ball.
The best centre-half back of my era. If it wasn't for a John Seabohm holding up the back half with a Chris Duthie, we certainly wouldn't have had the success that we had.
Around his body. From behind, but in front Seabohm, who's been...
He played under a number of coaches who had varying, you know, opinions about how the game should be played, but it didn't worry Siebes. Siebes used to go out and he only had one thing, and he was an eye for a ball. And that's what it was. And that's why he was such a good player and a great bloke.
The bounce in the left full forward pocket, the Bays in attack. Carey comes out with a foot, he can't get the kick away. McDermott shoots for goal, that's home! Great goal, Chris McDermott.
He was so hard. He had skill too. Unfortunately, his knee injuries slowed him down a little bit, but he just laid it all on. When he played, he just left nothing in reserve. He was a great leader.
He was an inspirational type of leader. He demanded a lot from his players, but he led by example, and he was just always the bottom of the pack and trying 100% and just supported everyone. Was just a great bloke to have in your team, and yeah, everyone just tried to play like Bone, I suppose.
McDermott's kick is okay. It's a goal.
They'd had good groundings under John Halbert. John Halbert had brought some of the young players through nicely. Graham Campbell had added a different dimension to some of the footballers, given Scott Salisbury a chance, for instance. We'd got the Stringer brothers from North Adelaide, Wayne Henwood, big, strong ruckman from Perth. So if we kept our cool and put it all together, you know, we had to win a premiership. There was no alternative. Glenelg had finished third the year before Graham Campbell got the sack. So there was only one option for Glenelg, and that was to win a premiership. So there was an enormous amount of pressure as well.
He runs through half forward, that ball's coming back!
We weren't playing well, it was just like everything had fallen in a hole. And North Adelaide were blitzing us, but David Robinson took the ball on the outer wing in front, dashing down in front of the scoreboard, bouncing, running towards goal, and had he kicked the other goal, it would have almost sunk us. But for some reason, the ball bounced back over his shoulder, bounced it went back over his shoulder, we picked it up, went back and kicked a goal, and then just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, the game was, the grand final was certainly slipping away. Robertson takes the ball, bounces down, Duthie picks it up, handballs to Maynard, chain of possession through the midfield. Maynard gets back on the end of the chain, kicks the goal, game turned on its head like that, but I think that just was the spark that ignited us. We were always extremely confident. I still remember standing in the centre square. I think North Adelaide were up 7-2, and we were supremely confident in our ability to turn the game around. We just needed a lucky break, and we certainly got it.
Scott Salisbury came onto the ground about 10 minutes back. Garton is leading. Spoil, Kernahan taking another one.
Really the catalyst was Stephen Kernahan's performance once he'd taken a couple of decent catches, and you know, that was really the sign to everybody. I think that it was just a matter of time, and when the floodgates opened, they really
on a lead. Marshall, the thump away comes from Armfield. Garton again, oh, he's got pace. Comes around beautifully, Garton. Great goal from the big chap. That's his second reason. Kicks it into the pocket. Copping. Great mark.
Marshall in turn to Duthie. Phillips making a metre to get there. Out in front of Simon. Centre wing. Simons turns well. Off goes Garton. Beautifully put, Tony Simon. Oops! Nearly dropped it. Kidney wants it. Wobbles one towards that player. Out comes Kernahan. Kernahan 30 metres out. Gets round and shoots. That looks home. Oh, what a goal, Stephen Kernahan. His third.
The lead from Stephen Kernahan. Wildy's with him, but Kernahan's judgment superior. Oh, Wildy a bit late. There was absolute disgust.
David Wildy frustrated, Glenelg getting on top, Kernahan in front as he always was. Wilds tried to slap him on the back of the head, had 3 or 4 cracks, none of them reached its mark. Kernahan gets a 15-metre penalty, kicks a goal, and Stephen got a very good memory with things like that. Payback was coming, it was just a matter of the opportunity arising. It arose 5 minutes later, this time David in front, Stephen making out he was going to spoil, missed the ball by probably a foot, maybe 2 feet, which he's a better judge of the ball than that. Knocks Wildy out, and it was again a significant moment in Stephen's career. A lot of AFL talent scouts there. He'd already been signed by Carlton, and I guess we all knew he was going next year. But if that didn't add another 100 or 200,000 to his contract, we'll go he.
For me, 85 was just an enormous relief that we could actually win a grand final.
Because it had felt like a war, having been through all those disappointments, and Glenelg were the bridesmaid to a degree, certainly Port Adelaide. And it goes back well before my era as well. I mean, it really goes back to 1974.
I mean, if you go through that 85 team, we had the All-Australian record games holder, Peter Carey, played 467 games, the most capped AFL captain in Stephen Kernahan, the youngest ever Magarey medalist Tony McGuinness, 15 state representatives, 5 All-Australians, 6 captains, 3 blokes who coached the club, 3 blokes played 400 games, 3 played 300, 8 played 200, 12 blokes went on to play AFL footy. We are talking about a unique time in South Australian sport, not just in the Glenelg footy.
I've come back in '86, and there's these young kids. I'm sitting in the room before the game, and I'm the oldest player basically. And all these young kids have tasted success the year before, right? And I'm sitting there, and Cornsy's played the 1985 grand final. But it's just snippets of it, and there's me, like tears streaming. I mean, I've got to play a game.
Off the half-back line for Glenelg. Long kick, clearing centre wing. Parsons gets the nudge out. Simons into the space, working forward. Tiller over to Marshall. David Marshall could go from here. He's gone for it, and he's got it. David Marshall gets his first goal. So Glenelg away to a...
No one really expected us to win in '86, but our first quarter was just sublime. Peter Maynard just dominated. And I think North Adelaide was still a bit shell-shocked.
Back, giving ground, but finding Hodgman. Infield he comes, Maynard. Glenelg suddenly finding loose men. Kick from Maynard, across to Hall, loose with Copping. It's Hall's mark.
I think Tony Hall's probably underrated. I mean, dual premiership player with Hawthorn in one of its best eras. 6 goals in a grand final at centre half forward, and having had the pressure to back up from Kernahan, having put in the performance he had the year prior. He would go down in my mind as one of Glenelg's greats.
By Carey, and David Kernahan puts the ball deep to centre wing, looking for Simons. Well dispatched and well run, Tony Simons. Infielders Glenelg begin to find the loose men. McDermott, May past the centre circle, putting it well inside half forward. Hall doubling back and has got the mark.
All I can remember in '86 was Tony Hall going berserk, Peter Maynard going berserk, Tony Simons going berserk.
It's not a direct approach, but now he centres the ball nicely. In front is Hall, and the mark will be paid. As Simons getting it across to Hodgman. Wide is still Maynard. He's got time to get balanced. He'll go for goals. It looks good. It's home.
Stephen Wright.
Oh, lazy kick under pressure. Alan Stringer swoops. And through it goes. The goal will kick to Glenelg. Back-to-back premierships, having won by 57, a convincing 48-point win.
'86 for me was my grand final I had the most fun in. You know, I was actually relaxed a bit because the pressure wasn't on to win, so the pressure was off. You could just go out and play footy and enjoy yourself, and absolutely, you know, loved '86.
And we partied for a good many weeks. I had a sports store in those days, and if my wife hadn't opened the sport or gone to work, she was going to work and I was coming home for a full week. So yeah, it was a good party time.
My last game was the 1988 grand final against Port, and I'd sort of made up my mind a few weeks before that I would retire. And it was just an absolute dream that, you know, could actually go out beating Port Adelaide in the grand final. Would have been the absolute best way to retire from footy, but unfortunately that didn't happen.
Hasn't been good enough on the day. Ewan posted his first.
Yeah, it was huge. I was a general manager at the time, and I spent days and days and days in court because we were the club that put the injunction on Port Adelaide, and then we were followed by Nord and South Adelaide and West Torrens. So we were the main persons. So I was in court a lot, and it was pretty damn trying, I've got to tell you. It was hard work, but yeah, there was a fair bit of turmoil then, and I think I called Port treacherous, something like that. Treacherous, and they were treacherous. They just, you know, were only trying to feather their own nest again and not thinking about South Australia. And South Australia became better off because of the Crows, there's no doubt about that.
We had our chances in the 1990 grand final, but Port Adelaide had that them against us mentality. They called upon it. John Cale was a great one at getting his team up in those conditions. But we all knew what was happening, and that's why I made the speech that I did in the Port Adelaide change rooms about how football had changed and how some people in that room were responsible. I remember walking down the tunnel after the game, and I said to Chris, I said, mate, you better speak first, because I don't think they'll be too happy with me afterwards.
It's very important to the Bays. It puts them in front, you would think, at half-time. Green blow, not far out, 45-degree angle. We're right behind it. He's a backman, he's a shocker, across the face. Back into a screamer! He's tackling now down by Veneman. Oh, Chick went brilliantly, gets it out there. How'd he do it? Down the scripts, goes into the goal square. It's some good work down there, over the back. They're trying to get it through, juggling forward, but still with a chance. Battle, Veneman, he's got it! Third goal of the Bays. Oh, what a start to the Lord. That's his.
Kelly from Lord.
Where's forward again? Chicky's got on the ground with his soccer.
Hodgie was fantastic for me personally, being a Rover, and I sort of idolised Hodgie when he was at North Melbourne as well, and tried to sort of set my game around certain things that Hodgie did. So, and he really gave me a lot of opportunities.
He had some talent. I mean, he was so tiny, had all the guts and the determination and the will to want to win. He was just in an era where we just didn't win.
That's a great kick at goal. Oh, they're kicking him from everywhere. Chigwin's got his clever play, you might say. Chigwin.
They're the type of players that you need in football teams. You need a lot more of them. Probably not the prettiest player either, but just gets the ball and keeps trying.
Just gold with Chigwin does the roving around his body. It's a great bounce. Eichner again thought about Geyer. Gets it short, but that's a poor one. Stringer looks for a running player. Salisbury through the half-forward line, goes in long, and he's got it. Mistake by the Eagle defence. Salisbury's second goal.
He'll admit this, he's never a huge talent, but he was a huge talent because he played state football just on courage. And he was the guy that kept the Glenelg Football Club together in 1992 when it could have easily fallen apart, because the Crows came in, I think it was 1991, the Crows came in 91-92, and we had blokes coming backwards and forwards from the Crows to Glenelg, and Scotty Salisbury was one of those blokes that really helped out as a senior player to get their emotions right to play at Glenelg again.
Oh, Scotty was again just one of those real tough players that is major walk taller, there's no doubt about it. And there's always been a lot that Scotty cleaned up a lot of blokes, and he did, but he also copped plenty too, and he was always the first to get up on his feet again, and just a good bloke with it. So yeah, he certainly made you feel pretty safe out in the footy field, and certainly upset a few of the opposition players, which was great too.
Lost it in the sun.
Very quiet achiever, Boxhead. Very supportive on the field. When the chips were down, David Grenfell stood up and rallied around.
Callahan getting himself up. I thought
Strong, tough, and very skillful. Funnily enough, you look at the guy and looks like a big ox, loud mouth. But geez, he could play footy.
Played in 88, 90 and 92, and they all sort of blend in together because they're all against Port, and unfortunately we lost them all, which doesn't go down that well either. But I think we had some pretty good teams in those grannies, and we just had a bit of a bogey team in Port. They nutted us every time. So the build up and being part of the game is awesome, and obviously the big crowd and that at Footy Park, and but also they end up being your most disappointing days in your footy career as well.
Football Park, Eagles up against the Tigers. First bounce
Davis Golding, the big hand got up. The Tigers won the toss. They're kicking to the southern end here this afternoon in absolutely perfect conditions for football. Golding's first kick of the afternoon. Where's McEntee? The big fly from behind. Nearly got it. Comes down to Hill. Hill around his bowler. Chance here for the Tigers. The ball sits. It will and it does to Higgins. Higgins brings up the first major of the afternoon for the Tigers. A great start.
The improvement in that 1999 season is, personally, it's the greatest achievement of all my football years. Better than playing.
Ball only, and takes a good mark. Wants to get the ball moving, gives it across the Carr. Carr needs support through the midfield. Looks up, he's kicked to the biggest man on the field. Oh!
Mark of the year, easy, straight over the top.
It was one of the best marks I've seen. I was sort of just under the pack sort of thing, waiting for the ball to come through, and Sujay's just come flying across the top, and it was just like Superman, really.
Oh, he's just leapt through the air and just gone straight over his opponent on the side there, and then held the ball.
That's Sujay, like he's pretty explosive, and he could take those sort of grabs, but yeah, it was certainly a highlight of that game.
Flew straight over the top.
Mary. Now in turn it's Jamison. They're mounting a charge, Glenelg. It's heel, straight and long towards McEntee, and he's got it.
Oh, great mark.
That's a mark. He is an exciting player, McEntee, and the one who could turn it.
27 points up at the 5-minute mark of the last quarter of a knockout semi-final. I mean, you're home, aren't you? You're going to play in a prelim, and I'm sure we would have beaten the Eagles in the prelim, having learnt from what we lost a couple of weeks before that, and then you're in a grand final. I don't know if we would have won it, but to get there would have been a mighty achievement, having come from bottom the year before.
Yeah, Tony was very much like Graham Corns, I think, in the way they coached, and Mark Williams. I think those three were all very, very particular and very tactical in the way they went about it. And he probably had some good results there. And then unfortunately we didn't go on with it after that. We fell off again, which was a bit of a pity.
Kelly, Hill, Rouvray, Chigwin are the four that stand out to mind. Really good blokes, very honest and committed, and give you absolutely 100% effort. And you can't ask any more of that of your leadership group. It's only a shame that ultimately it didn't work out for any of them in terms of playing in a grand final, which I think would have been the highlight and catalyst of their careers.
But it all looked positive, and they had, I think Jamison, Liptak, Rouvray were all floating around, but unfortunately they all retired that year. And I think that was probably one of the steps or the downfalls of the club, because losing that experience, it all sort of fell away pretty quickly from '99 for a couple of years. On the night that they actually announced it, I think it was Graham McCreary or someone got up there, it might have been Bob Ainsbury, and just ran through a heap of past captains, and I actually sat in the chair. I just started shooting, had got the chills up the spine and thought, holy hell, these are some big shoes to fill.
The club is still dear to me. I mean, I can walk into the Glenelg Footy Club and still meet people that I haven't seen for years and years and years and have a beer with them. And that's what it's all about. And we've got to treasure these people, because they may all be forgotten in the long term, and kids nowadays need to know the history of a club. They need to know the history of the club.
Today it's a pleasant memory. I had nearly 10 years of being there, met some great blokes, and still have great times with them when they come up here or I go down there.
It's home. I mean, it's home more than any other footy club I've been in is, and the thing I love about it, it has provided us all with lifelong friends. I mean, we have been best man at weddings, we're godfathers to children, we've done eulogies at funerals, we share the highs, share the lows, and have a friendship that goes beyond footy.
The 10 years I had at Glenelg were just unbelievable. The people of Glenelg, the officials and everybody, they just accepted me and treated me so well, and Barbara as well.
I can't explain what the club means to me, but every time I drive past Glenelg Oval, and I do it nearly every day, I feel something special. And I'll still go and walk out on the ground when no one's there and walk around and look at the stands, take it in, and feel the emotions from years gone by. I can't express how much it does mean to me. But to say I love it is an understatement.